And I was just in my feelings about it. And the Holy Spirit said, look to your right and look to your left. And he said, don't, when you look around, these are the people that support you.
Mm-hmm.
Those other people, you're their support. And so that was...
Hey y'all, welcome to the Figuring It Out With You podcast with your favorite mother-daughter duo, where we're in an ever-growing conversation with each other and you all, just trying to figure out how to make the most of the life we've all been given.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Kay.
And let's get this conversation started for today.
Welcome
to
the new year.
Yes.
We out here. Yeah, I don't know how y'all's 2024 is going so far, but we want to know in the comments because we missed y'all.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so far my year's going all right. How about you?
I'm having a pretty good 2024.
Yeah.
So I can't complain. Things are going pretty good.
Moving and shaking? Yeah, I feel you.
Moving and shaking and moving.
All right also probably was a little weak. Like, it's been pretty good, actually. Like, all right. But yeah, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we don't... I know every time I'm in the store and I ask someone how they're doing and they're like, I'm blessed or I'm having an excellent day. And I always appreciate that energy. I think that we don't really give enough energy to our circumstances. So
yeah,
that's something I want to work on in 2024.
So I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
today's topic is how to build meaningful relationships. And not necessarily even how, more so just like meaningful relationships. Yeah, so let's just get off the bat with like, what do we even think meaningful relationships are? Like, for you, mommy, what's the definition of like a meaningful relationship? Like, what makes a relationship meaningful as opposed to a relationship?
A meaningful relationship is one that I don't think I would be able to do without. I think that to know if a relationship is meaningful or not, you have to understand the value of the relationship. Some of my meaningful relationships are the relationships I have with my children, family, and a few co-workers. But basically, meaningful is something that I cannot live without, in my opinion. So it's only a few people that reach that category in my world, but hey, those that get there, consider yourselves lucky.
Sir, I made the cut. I can see that.
What's your definition of meaningful?
I think usually for me, I probably define meaningful relationships as like a relationship where, I don't know. Like when I was in high school, I came to like think about meaningful relationships as those relationships that have a place and a space in my life outside of circumstance. You know, like not just when it's convenient. And so, like for example, in high school, that looks like some people, if we didn't go to school, we were in the same class, and we didn't sit beside each other, we never would have talked. And so that relationship probably isn't that meaningful because it was like a circumstantial thing. It's like, okay, because we're like in this situation where we have to be talking to each other, we're talking. But also, that's not the only qualifier. I would also say just like a relationship where it feels like we're both like pouring into each other in some way. It might not be like the most like, you know, extreme example of pouring into each other or growing with each other, but just in some way we're like advancing, and it's not just like our conversations have a little bit more than just like what, you know, like those, if I'm only having conversations about just like what is going on around us, and it's never like deeper, more personal, or it's never like advancing some ideas or thoughts, or yeah, it's not necessarily that meaningful. It's like we always just talk about like the latest song out. That's all right, but I wouldn't call that a meaningful relationship. Yeah.
That reminds me of the time when you were in, I believe, middle school, and you were talking about your best friend, and oh, my best friend, my best friend, my best friend. And I said, Michaela, you would not even know these people. in the next 10 years.
But I know some of them.
And you looked at me and you said, I don't believe that. It was so like such a profound moment for me as a parent. Because I know the twists and turns life takes. And yes, you do know some of them.
Yeah, but very few.
But it's not as many as you thought you were gonna know. But that just goes to, you know, what is meaningful. And then relationships change over time. It may have been a meaningful relationship at one point and it may transition into something else. So we just always have to be conscious of where we are in life and what we need in each moment, I believe.
Dang, that's deep right there. Because I never thought about it necessarily, but like I have experienced it, but I never thought about how I never like put it in those words, like when thinking about it, like how like something might have been meaningful in the past, but like now it's not as meaningful or whatever. Like,
yeah,
because in the past, like in middle school, like somebody wanted to tell me about like their favorite artists and stuff. That was like I felt like that was really like, you know, they want to let me into their life and like, you know, but now I'm like, okay, what else? You know, so that's interesting. That's funny.
Yeah, I think the older you get, you have a better outlook on what you need as a person, and the type of friend or the type of friend or giver into this relationship that you want to be. So those are few of the things that make these interactions meaningful.
So we talked about like what a meaningful relationship is to us, but how have we experienced getting there? Like for you, like how do you usually get there? How do you make a relationship meaningful? How does it become meaningful? What's that process like?
The process is basically, like I said, just understanding what I need from the relationship and what I'm willing to give. A lot of times relationships are one-sided and you're giving. You're giving time, you're giving energy, you're giving of yourself, and you're not receiving those things back. So I always try to do a balance and check system when I'm in these interactions and in these relationships. And sometimes you may just have to be that support for that other person. You know, it does not make the relationship any less meaningful, but just know that sometimes you're not always going to get what you want to have. You may just get what they're able to give. You know, I remember a few months ago, we were at your graduation. And I was so upset because a lot of people that said they were coming didn't make it. And I was just in my feelings about it. And the Holy Spirit said, look to your right and look to your left. And he said, when you look around, these are the people that support you. Those other people, you're their support. And so that was a very profound moment for me. It gave me a lot of perspective, and that's the way life goes. You may be that support for some people, while you'll have other people that are there to support you. So I just believe that once you understand the interaction and how it's supposed to go, just being that person, because it's easy to say, oh, they didn't show up for me, so I'm never going to show up for them again. But everybody has to play their part. So if it's your part to support them, you continue to show up. When they don't show up for you, don't be upset about it, because they're playing their position. They're playing they're in their role, doing what they're supposed to do. So I just think that we all need to just have a better understanding of how we're supposed to be moving and interacting in each other's lives. And to get to that place, you have to really, really be selfless. And it's a journey.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's interesting too, because also kind of like bouncing off your earlier point, it's also possible that somebody that maybe like you or their support over time can become more a part of your support too.
Right.
But just expecting that right off the bat could put up limits that just don't help.
Yeah, and I think it would just have to be fair. You know, it's you have to be fair, and you have to just understand, like, you can't show up every day. Everybody cannot show up every day.
For
Everybody
everything.
has moments and times where they're feeling down, or you may have a moment in time where you're feeling down. But just know, if it is a meaningful relationship, you'll always maintain that connection.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some ways that you build meaningful, or
Yeah.
what are some examples to you of meaningful relationships?
Examples? Um, like what do you mean examples? Like people that I know, like
I mean, what is a meaningful relationship to you? A specific example of a meaningful relationship.
I think like a relationship where one, we gotta really be able to like talk about stuff. Like if I'm clearly going through crisis or something, or like for example, there's times in my life where I've been chilling, like I've been, experiencing some things, but like thinking that I'm good for the most part, and then like a friend will be like, "Yo, you're kind of tripping," and I'm like, "What? I'm fine. What you talking about?" And like being able to like somebody that's able to like be honest with me and like tell me what they're witnessing from me and experiencing from me and how it may feel different or off than how I usually portray myself. I feel like that helps me usually because in the moment sometimes I'm like I definitely don't know what you're talking about. Other times I'll be like, yeah, I know that I feel different, but I was hoping nobody else could see it. But thanks for letting me know. And so it's just like different stuff like that where it's like, okay, we can really come to each other and keep it a book. Like, yeah, stuff like that for sure. But then also like, hmm, also like, no, yeah, that. I mean, yeah, just like a level of honesty, a level of I got your back, and I'll be there. I'm happy to like listen to you talk. Sometimes it's like not even advice. Sometimes just you just like listen to me talk. Sometimes it's advice. Sometimes it's advice nobody asked for, but you're like, I love you so much that I would be crazy to not tell you what I'm experiencing or how I feel about this thing. Or yeah, like I think relationships where we're willing to grow, like moments where things might be difficult, but we're willing to push past that. For me, always like counts as meaningful. Like I remember in ninth grade, maybe it was 10th grade, I had this little trio friend group from high school, and one time I don't know what happened, but somehow me and one of the people weren't too doing too great, and this is the one that we kind of had a little more like out of the trio, if it was gonna be any temporary beef, it was gonna be me and this person, pretty much. And so then this one time when that happened, something also happened with the other one. So I was kind of in a little small annoyance and kind of mad at each other, or whatever, with two of them. And me and the one that I usually wasn't really beefing with for real. I mean, not that I was beefing with the other one either. Whatever. Anyways, I wrote her a letter because I was like, clearly talking about it hasn't worked or isn't gonna work yet. So I'm gonna just write you this letter because that was my go-to in high school. Low key, still now. Like I just feel so much better saying hard things over a written format that I can just write it. They can read it at another time. I don't gotta be there when they read it. It's perfect. And then we wrote each other letters just saying how we felt about the situation, and I think that was a moment where I was like, okay, this is a person that we're willing to grow together. We both realized this conversation was hard to have, but yet we're trying something to have it, you know? Whereas there's some relationships where we've come to a place where there's a need for a conversation and maybe it didn't happen. And maybe like I wanted it to happen, but it didn't happen. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily makes it automatically not meaningful, but for sure in the moment, it kind of felt like this might not be able to be a friendship that can progress. But then over time, most of those friendships also we did come to a place where we could talk about it and figure out some solutions or whatever. So I feel like just any relationship where we're willing to like put something in and get something out, something that might not have come easy to us, something that took a little digging deep to like come up with or whatever, for sure.
Yeah, it is hard to have those hard conversations, and I like to write also.
Yeah.
It's so much better. I guess it goes to just minimizing conflict, but
I'm like, let me just write you this letter.
and you know, like you said, both parties have to be willing to grow.
Mm.
I am so completely have zero tolerance for just, if I feel like I'm not getting what I need and you're not willing to consider what I need, my cutoff game is so strong. I need to work on it. I need to
Not the
get
cutoff
better
game.
because you'll really become non-existent in my world, and that's not
Sheesh.
good because, like I said, some people are there for me to support, and some people support me. So I think that we need to be mindful of these meaningful relationships and be willing to put in the work. And to your point, when you were saying it's people that come and say, well, I noticed that you're different, you
Yeah.
know, you have to be willing to accept that criticism, that constructive criticism, and then do a check within yourself. Because 9 times out of 10, if somebody is telling you that you're different, you already know that something is going on. And like you said,
Yeah.
you just trying to make sure that nobody else see or notice it.
Yeah.
But it is good to just have good
Oh.
people around you, people that are genuinely concerned about you. It's a very, very fulfilling, and I know that that's why we're all here. God placed us here on this earth, and it's just so amazing when you think about the various connections that you have, people that you meet, and just simple scenarios, and you can look back 20 years later and still be able to call them and say, wow, you remember we met at the grocery store, you know, or we was at the library, or you know, just anyway. I remember I have a good friend. I met her at work, you know, and we've been friends now for many years, 15, 20 years.
Sheesh.
Just a general connection at work. My other best friend, Asia, you know, I met her. We was both working at KFC. You know, so it's just amazing. Now, Asia and I have been friends more than 20 years.
More than 22.
More than 22, because she is Makalia's godmother. So it's just amazing how, in general conversation, you just strike up with people randomly, and you're building lifelong connections. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. What would you say your biggest learning curve has been in like maintaining or building meaningful relationships?
My biggest learning curve is
something that's not the cutoff game.
yeah, you can't. That's what I'm working on, though. Hey, I recognize it.
Yeah.
My
First
biggest
step.
learning curve, I think, is learning that everybody is not going to respond the way that I do. That lesson was very, very hard for me to learn. It took me a long time to learn it. But once I got it, I got it. Like the light bulb came on. Because I used to just really frustrate myself going through life. Like if my friend called and said I need some food, I would take them food, or I would go buy them food, or I would send money to get them food, you know. And I found myself in situations like that, and I'm calling my friend like, oh, I need such and such, and it's like crickets. And I was so upset, and I was like, why don't they respond? Why are they not doing what they're supposed to do, in my opinion? Because that's what I would do for them. And I had to learn. I'm sure the Holy Spirit was very instrumental in teaching me. Everybody's not going to respond the way that you respond. I made you the way that I made you. You're Kim. You cannot expect Makalia to give you a Kim response.
Hello.
And once I learned that, once I understood that, I think that has definitely been instrumental for me.
Yeah, I feel that. I had a similar learning curve, especially probably because I'm her daughter. But yeah, for sure, she's telling me that all the time growing up. Like, everybody don't think like you. You can't just expect everybody just gonna act like how you would act in a situation. I'm like, I guess, but like, why though? I guess. But beyond that, I would say my biggest learning curve has probably been one, like expanding my idea of a meaningful relationship. I feel like when I was younger, I understandably I thought that, I wonder if too, like a big part of this was shaped by like how when I was coming up, it's kind of when social media and like just having more access to technology for kids kind of was starting. And so it was like, first of all, I also talked a lot. So in like elementary school already, I was just the girl that was like talking nonstop all class, like with my friends, you know, like my besties, we beside each other, we talking the whole class all day, just like this like constant interaction. And so then I get to middle school, and it's like, yeah, we're talking all day, and then we get home, and we're on the phone all night. It's like, yes, sir, you know. And so I kind of had this idea that a meaningful relationship, or a good relationship, or a strong relationship is one in which we're just like constantly in conversation, like 24/7. We on the phone, we're talking, we're something, you know, just like constant interaction. But then I had to grow up and realize that, first of all, constant interaction isn't really healthy necessarily. It's not really healthy, but also it's just not possible all the time. You can't just always be locked in and talking to the same person or whatever. And so I had to think about like, okay, beyond that, but then I also realized like, okay, so you can be talking to somebody so much, and yet there's no like value in the relationship or friendship or whatever. Um, and so I think I had to one realize that um, meaningful relationship doesn't just mean we're constantly talking. Because sometimes I would be upset, like you know, like dang, like they don't want to talk to me all day. That's crazy. What's wrong with them? But then also I think a learning curve was like realizing that every friendship isn't going to look the same. Like it's not going to be the same exact metric. You're not going to be able to like write a rubric and be like, oh, check, check, this is a good friendship. Because every person has different strengths, different weaknesses, and so you have to kind of like think about things in context. And so like that just was a big learning curve for me. Because at first I also kind of treated every relationship the same. Like okay, if me and this friend act this way, I should just be able to like apply that to every friend I have. And if I can't, that's something wrong with that person. But that's not really how it works. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that your generation definitely is overstimulated.
Yeah.
I appreciate having my peace. I appreciate not talking to my friends every single day, all day. I don't even know if we would be friends if I had to talk to them every day, all day. I am definitely the one to look at that phone ringing and not answer it. So hey, I have to take my peace when I can get it.
Yeah, my mom be so like perplexed. Understandably, I can see why it's like perplexing, but at the same time, I also can see how it's like nice and comforting and nice when me and my sister be on the phone with people like on FaceTime, but we're just like living our lives, you know, like we're not like necessarily talking the whole time on FaceTime, but we're on FaceTime. Like I get to see my friend doing her work, and then we have a little conversation here, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then I go do something. I'm like, wait 1 second, I'm about to go wash the dishes or something. I come back, you know, she waiting on the phone. It's just vibes, you know, like a few hours, you know, like some slight. She doing her little art. I'm cleaning my room, you know.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy
perfect.
because the whole house is under surveillance. I feel like I'm in the Big Brother house because she's on FaceTime talking to her friend, but her friend is hearing me and my interactions and my conversations. I just think that that's
I guess I never
extreme.
thought about it that way.
That's
Not the Big Brother
extreme.
house.
That's what it feels like.
I hear you. I can see that. I can see that.
But you don't understand that because of
Yeah,
your generation.
I'm
Y'all
like,
so free and giving and sharing of all of your time and all of your energies, and I need to let
yeah,
everybody know every moment of my life
that's
because I'm
funny.
posting. I'm at this restaurant and it's
Yeah,
just a lot.
yeah, that is true.
It's really a lot,
That is true.
but it's all good. I just I'm learning. I'm learning how to interact with Michaelia
Mm.
and my other children because it's really different. My son, he's a teenager, 15,
Mm-hmm.
and he will sit on the phone all night.
And say
Like he's
nothing though. He don't
snoring.
say nothing.
He's snoring.
My conversation, at least we talk every now and then. Most
I'm
of the time,
like,
to
you
be
got to be
honest.
on the phone while you sleep. Like that's why. That doesn't make sense. Now I remember
Yeah.
like being in like the puppy love stage and we would sit on the phone until we fell asleep. But every night, that's just a lot. It's just too much.
Yeah, I
But I
feel
guess
you.
that's his concept is meaningful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll change over time.
I
So
hope so. Nah, just kidding. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, y'all. Whoop. Sorry. Um, yeah.
I think that's it. You have anything else to say about meaningful relationships?
Do I have anything else to say about meaningful relationships? Um, I guess kind of just bouncing off. It kind of sums up a little bit of like what you were saying about your cutoff game. You got to work on it to make it not so strong. But then also how like things do change over time. And I guess I would just say like don't something I'm also trying to remember for myself is don't write anybody off because also ultimately, like you said, our purpose is to connect with people, and then also like God put us here to mirror like His qualities, and so if I'm just like oh like we're not friends no more, and I'm cutting people off, or just like I'm thinking like we're not close anymore, so I'll never talk to them again. I don't know, just like in any way closing doors to people. I don't really think that's how we're meant to live because also just like what's the point of that? Like, you know? And so I would say like just never closing doors. 'Cause there's some people where it's like I don't be knowing if our relationship is friend. I don't know if we're friends. I don't know if we're not friends. It feels like when we talk, it's kind of like some beef. But then it's like I don't know. It's just like a couple of people in my life. Where I just really don't know where we stand sometimes. But I think being open to still figuring it out, I think is the key. Um, and not just being like, oh, like they were tripping at one time, so I'm gonna just block them or whatever. Yeah.
And we are definitely attempting to figure it out with you.
Oh yeah.
So please drop your comments.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know how you deal in relationships when you don't really know where you stand. Let us know how you foster and nurture meaningful relationships. We're all here to learn and grow together.
That's
Let's
right.
figure it out with you.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Have a good one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Bye.